From muddy trenches to command cabinets, from secret operations to desperate close-quarters duels, 9mm pistols defined the personal armament of World War II. While rifles and machine guns dominated the battlefields, it was pistols that saved lives when all else failed. This is the complete arsenal. Every 9mm pistol that entered combat between 1939 and 1945. Every weapon revealed, every story told. From German masterpieces to improvised designs of desperation, prepare to learn about the weapons that officers, pilots, paratroopers, and elite soldiers entrusted with their lives. Luger P08, the German icon. We begin with the absolute legend, the Luger P08, also known as the Parabellum pistol. If there is one pistol that defines World War II in the popular imagination, it is the Luger. Its unmistakable profile, that characteristic grip angle, the unique toggle lock system, the almost aristocratic elegance, made it instantly recognizable and desperately coveted. Developed by George Luger at the beginning of the 20th century, the P08 had already served in World War I. But it was in World War II that it became truly iconic. Officially adopted by the Wehrmacht in 1908, hence the 08, it represented the height of pre-war German precision engineering. The operating system was unique and fascinating. It used a hinged toggle lock mechanism. The breech rose and fell through a two-arm articulation. When fired, this joint broke upwards, ejected the empty casing, then lowered again, loading a new bullet. It was mechanically elegant, almost hypnotic to observe in action. The accuracy was legendary. Experienced shooters could hit targets at $50 meters, dollar with surprising ease. The trigger had a clean, predictable pull. The balanced weight made aiming natural and intuitive. German officers who received a Luger often treated it like a family jewel, engraving their initials, polishing it obsessively, keeping it in perfect condition. And here is why Allied soldiers coveted them so much. Capturing a Luger was the ultimate war trophy. It was worth more than watches, knives, or any other souvenir. American and British soldiers risked their lives to take Lugers from dead Germans. There was even a black market where Lugers were traded for cigarettes, chocolate, or even real money. A Luger in good condition was worth the equivalent of a month's pay. But there were serious problems. The mechanical complexity that made the Luger so fascinating also made it expensive and difficult to produce. Each pistol required about $180 hours of specialized labor. Parts needed to be individually hand-fitted. Tolerances were measured in fractions of a millimeter. This was acceptable in peacetime, but in total war? It was an impossible luxury. Reliability also suffered. That delicate toggle mechanism was sensitive to dirt, mud, sand, and dust. In North Africa, Lugers frequently jammed because of the fine desert sand. On the Eastern Front, extreme cold froze the lubricant, jamming the mechanism. Soldiers quickly learned that the Luger required obsessive maintenance, something difficult when you were in a trench under artillery fire. The 8-round magazine was also problematic. The magazine spring was strong and complicated to load. Soldiers developed calluses on their thumbs from forcing bullets in. And 8 rounds were simply not enough in intense close combat, where competing pistols offered 13 or even 15 rounds. Still, more than $3 million Luger P08s were produced between 1900 and 1942, with hundreds of thousands serving in World War II. They equipped Wehrmacht, Kriegsmarine, and Luftwaffe officers. Fighter pilots carried them as a survival weapon. U-boat commanders kept them in their cabins. Generals used them ceremonially in parades. Special variants existed. The artillery pistol had a $20 cm long barrel and a detachable wooden stock, turning it into an improvised carbine. The naval version had distance gauges engraved on the barrel. There were even Lugers in $7.65 Parabellum caliber for export. The Luger P08 represents an era of German warfare that was dying, the era of artisanal precision. It was a magnificent weapon, but completely unsuitable for the brutal reality of total industrial warfare. Still, it remains the definitive icon of World War II pistols. Walther P38, the modern replacement. When it became clear that the Luger was too expensive and too complex for mass production, Germany needed a replacement. The answer came from the Walther factory, the P38, officially adopted in 1938. The design philosophy was radically different. Where the Luger was artisanal and delicate, the P38 was industrial and robust. Where the Luger used a toggle articulation, the P38 used a much simpler and more reliable short recoil system. It was modernity replacing tradition. The operating system was revolutionary for its time. It used short barrel recoil. When fired, the barrel recoiled a few millimeters along with the breech, then unlocked while the breech continued backward, ejecting the casing and loading a new bullet. It was the same basic principle used by most modern semi-automatic pistols to this day. But the true innovation was the double-action/single-action system. This meant you could load a bullet into the chamber, safely lower the hammer using the decocking lever, and then fire the first shot simply by pulling the trigger itself raised and released the hammer. Subsequent shots were single-action, with a lighter trigger pull. This was revolutionary in 1938 and made the P38 much safer to carry than the Luger. Production was dramatically simpler. Where the Luger required $180 hours, the P38 could be produced in $60 hours, using simple stamping and machining. This meant 3 P38s for the time of 1 Luger. In total war, numbers mattered more than elegance. Reliability was superior in virtually all aspects. The P38 worked dirty. It worked wet. It worked frozen. It worked in the scorching heat of North Africa and the freezing cold of Stalingrad. German soldiers quickly preferred the P38 to the legendary Luger, because when their life depended on it, the P38 simply functioned. The magazine held 8 rounds, same as the Luger, not ideal, but adequate. Accuracy was good, although it did not achieve the legendary precision of the Luger. But for realistic combat within $25 meters, it was more than enough. The weight was comfortable, the balance was natural, and the controls were intuitive. More than $1.20 million P38s were produced during the war by 3 main manufacturers: Walther, code AC, Mauser, code BYF, and Spreework, code CYQ. Each factory had small variations in finish and markings, but all were functionally identical and interchangeable. The P38 equipped all German armed forces. Wehrmacht, SS, Luftwaffe, Kriegsmarine, all received P38s. It became especially popular among field officers who needed absolute reliability. While generals kept Lugers for tradition and prestige, captains and lieutenants on the front preferred P38s because they saved lives. Interestingly, the P38 had a second life after the war. The West German Army readopted it as the P1 in the 1950s, and it remained in service until the 1990s. This is an extraordinary testament to its design. Few weapons serve $4.50+ years. Allied soldiers also respected the P38. Although it did not have the trophy prestige of the Luger, it was recognized as a technically superior pistol. Many American soldiers who captured both kept the P38 and sold the Luger, because the P38 was more reliable on the battlefield. The Walther P38 represents the future of military pistols: practical, reliable, mass-producible. It was the weapon of modern warfare, not of aristocratic tradition. And in that modernity lay its strength. Walther PP and PPK, the elite compacts. Now we come to the elegant and deadly Walther PP, Polizei-Pistole, and PPK, Polizei-Pistole Criminal. These small compact pistols represented the other side of German armament, not frontal combat weapons, but tools for officers, pilots, and special operations. The PP was developed in 1929, followed by the even more compact PPK version in 1931. They were double-action pistols in $9 $Kurs caliber, also known as .380 ACP, a less powerful ammunition than the standard $9 $, Parabellum, but suitable for a compact personal defense weapon. The design was sleek and modern. Simple blowback system, no locking, just the recoil spring and the inertia of the breech controlled the cycle. This worked perfectly with the less powerful $9 Kurz ammunition. The result was a thin, light, easily concealable pistol, yet lethal at short range. The PPK especially became iconic. At just $15.50 cm, $long and weighing a mere $590 grams, it fit easily in a shoulder holster, coat pocket, or ankle holster. It was the perfect pistol for fighter pilots who needed something compact in the tight cockpit of a Messerschmitt. It was ideal for Gestapo and SD officers operating in urban environments where discretion was vital. The build quality was exceptional. Every PP and PPK was beautifully finished, with polished surfaces, perfect fit between components, and smooth controls. To hold a PPK was to hold a mechanical jewel. You felt the German quality in every detail. Hermann Göring, commander of the Luftwaffe, carried an ornate golden PPK. Adolf Hitler supposedly committed suicide with a $7.65 $PPK in the Berlin bunker in April 1945. The pistol was so associated with Nazi leadership that Allied soldiers specifically sought them out from captured officers. But they were not just ceremonial weapons. Luftwaffe pilots carried them religiously. If they were shot down over enemy territory, the PPK could mean the difference between capture and escape. It was light enough not to interfere in an ejection emergency, but lethal enough for close defense. German intelligence agents, Abwehr and SD, used PPKs extensively in operations behind enemy lines. Their compact size allowed easy concealment. Their German build quality meant reliability in adverse conditions. And their $9 Kurz ammunition, though less powerful, was suitable for the quiet work of special operations. More than $250,000 PPs and PPKs were produced during the Nazi era. They equipped German police, Luftwaffe, senior Wehrmacht and SS officers, and security forces. Some were even supplied to Axis allies. Italy, Hungary, and Romania received limited quantities. Interestingly, the PPK became perhaps more famous after the war as James Bond's pistol of choice in Ian Fleming's novels and early films. Fleming, who served in British naval intelligence during World War II, knew the PPK's reputation among agents well. He chose it specifically for Bond, knowing that readers would recognize its association with discreet lethal efficiency. The Walther PP and PPK represent German sophistication in compact format. They were not frontline weapons, but specialized tools for specialized situations. And in that specialization, they were unsurpassed. Browning HI Power, the brilliant Belgian. Now we turn to the Allied forces with the exceptional Browning High Power, also known as GP35, Grande Puissance 1935. This Belgian pistol would become one of the most successful and long-lasting firearms in military history. The story begins with the legendary John Moses Browning, probably the greatest weapons designer in history. In the 1920s, he worked on a new military pistol to replace his own previous creation, the M1911. Browning died in 1926 before completing the design, but his prototype was finalized by Fabrique Nationale, FN, in Belgium and adopted in 1935. The result was extraordinary. The high power had an impressive 13-round magazine, almost double the 7 rounds of the M1911 and much more than the 8 rounds of the Luger. This was revolutionary in 1935 and gave a massive tactical advantage in close combat. 13 rounds meant fewer reloads, more time in combat, a greater chance of survival. The operating system used the classic short-barrel recoil with cam locking, similar to the M1911 but refined and improved. It was reliable, simple to maintain, and durable. The weight of $1 kg loaded made it substantial but not heavy. The balance was perfect, the pistol pointed naturally. Accuracy was exceptional. trained shooters could consistently hit targets at $50 meters, dollar. The sights were clear and intuitive. The single-action trigger had a clean break point. It was a shooter's pistol, not just a close combat weapon. When Germany invaded Belgium in May 1940, the FN factory was quickly captured. The Germans, recognizing the superior quality of the high power, continued its production under occupation. More than $300,000 high powers, dollar were produced for the Wehrmacht between 1940 and 1944, marked with German proof marks and designated Pistole 640, B, the B, meaning Belgian. This created the surreal situation where the same pistol was used by both sides. German soldiers carried high powers manufactured under occupation. British paratroopers carried high powers manufactured before the war or produced by the FN factory in exile in Canada. Belgian resistance forces stole high powers from German occupation troops. The high power was literally fighting against itself. The British forces loved it. The SAS, Special Air Service, officially adopted it. British commandos preferred it over the standard Webley revolver. RAF pilots operating over occupied Europe carried it as a survival weapon. The 13-round capacity was seen as a crucial advantage if they were shot down and needed to fight their way out. Canadian forces also used it extensively. During the D-Day landings in June 1944, Canadian officers carrying high powers fought on Juno Beach. In the Battle of Arnhem in September 1944, British paratroopers used high powers in desperate urban combat against SS Panzer divisions. The high power also equipped resistance forces throughout occupied Europe. Its reliability was crucial for guerrillas who could not afford regular maintenance. Its 13-round capacity meant more shots before reloading, vital in ambushes. Allied airdrops included high powers along with Sten guns and explosives for the French, Dutch, Belgian, and Polish resistance. Interestingly, the high power was not officially adopted by the American Army during World War II, but many American officers bought it privately. Officers serving alongside the British often traded for or bought high powers, recognizing its superiority over the M1911 and magazine capacity. After the war, the high power became one of the most widely adopted military pistols in history. More than $50 countries, dollar officially adopted it. It was produced under license in various countries. The British Army kept it in service until 2013, an impressive 78 years after its initial design. Even today in 2025, high powers are still in service in some military and police forces. The Browning high power represents the perfect design, adequate power, exceptional capacity, absolute reliability, and superior ergonomics. It was the definitive combat pistol of World War II, serving both sides with equal lethal effectiveness. Conclusion. From German artisanal masterpieces to practical combat tools, these 9mm pistols define the personal combat of World War II. The Luger P08 with its legendary elegance but problematic complexity. The Walther P38 bringing modernity and industrial reliability. The compact PP and PPK serving the elite and special operations. And the Browning high power, the perfect design that served both sides and changed military pistols forever. Each revealed a different philosophy, tradition versus pragmatism, craftsmanship versus mass production, specialization versus versatility. And together, they wrote the final chapters of the evolution of military semi-automatic pistols. The principles established by these weapons, reliability over elegance, capacity over tradition, simplicity over complexity, still dominate military pistol design today, 8 decades later. These were the weapons that officers entrusted with their lives, that saved down pilots, that armed the resistance, and that decided fates in desperate combat just a few meters away. Small, portable, but absolutely lethal. This was the complete arsenal of 9mm pistols of World War II.